Now we get to the insane one. If the first Ninja Gaiden was a masterclass of methodical ninja action with a little bit of flash, this one is all flash with only a tablespoon of methodicalness. This game was balls to the walls compared to the first, yo. If the first game was Alien, this is Aliens with the action dial turned up to 11. And just like those aforementioned films, things are a little bit different, but equally as good if you ask me. From what I gather, it seems like most folks are in agreement too, though the first game is usually the one that people point to more often as the classic. This is another one I got fond memories of, and unlike the first, I remember liking this one a bit more because I was actually skilled enough to get through it. Is that the case now? Well, let's see what our guy Ryu is up to here. So Ninja Gaiden 2 opens up with yet another bodacious blonde chick named Sonya chatting it up with our boy Muramasa. She's part of the CIA and is seeking out Ryu to warn him about the plans of a bunch of greater fiends trying to resurrect the Archfiend. Talk gets cut short when Black Spider Clan ninjas raid the shop and capture Sonya. This is when Ryu makes his appearance to cut them down, but the clans still get away with Sonya. Ryu rampages through Tokyo to save her, which he eventually does. Now informed, Ryu makes his way back to the village to stop the demon statue from getting stolen, but he takes yet another L here as one of the greater fiends named Elizabeth makes off with it while he's distracted by this ninja named Genshin. For the rest of the game, Ryu, along with some help from Sonya, hunt down these greater fiends to stop the resurrection of the Archfiend. So yeah, new console, better hardware, which means we got some better graphics. Not too big of a leap, at least compared to Sigma 1, but then again, that version was a next-gen port where they updated everything. I wouldn't be surprised if some assets were reused here, but I would be lying if I could spot where. The textures and character models have seen an increase, but why is every character in this game so damn glossy? Do y'all see what I'm talking about? Is it just me? At least compared to the original, it looks like almost every enemy in this game is rubbed down with oil. I don't know if that has to do with how they were designed or the lighting just giving off that effect, because the lighting is pretty flat in this game. Was definitely not pushing any boundaries with the realism, especially with the wooden faces, but still, this game is a little bit more appealing to look at than Ninja Gaiden 1, and that's due to the variety of environments. Some vibrant environments too, a jungle, a Mediterranean style city, a futuristic looking Tokyo, and more. Tyron's drabness did fit that game's bleak tone, but I would be lying if I said that I didn't get tired of going through there after a while. The constant switching up here is more my speed, and it's also the speed of this game's vibe with its non-stop action. Man, I thought the first game had no cohesion with its places and enemies. They didn't give a single fuck here. What was really impressive about this game, especially back then, was how many goddamn enemies this game throws at you, and at crazy speeds too. Some sections get so ridiculous. I remember the original Xbox 360 version not being able to handle it. The frame rate would just go to hell. All the goddamn gore, especially with the limbs staying around long after fights, probably didn't help things, but I'm glad they didn't compromise on that because the absurd amount of carnage on display definitely enhances the feel of the combat. Also, the slowdown issues are specific to the 360. The Xbox One and the later versions luckily don't have that issue. I do miss the CGI cinematics though. Yeah, they were kind of dated, especially with their 4:3 aspect ratio, but they did enhance a lot of the important moments with more detailed art and dynamic shots. So what you do in Ninja Gaiden 2 is fundamentally the same as the first. You're still a one-man army shinobi going through hallways slaughtering waves of tough enemies. The big difference this time around is that there is way more slaughtering. Like, god damn, Ryu was not doing the forces of Tyron like this. It's OD. You got longer and faster combos that take you all over the damn place. You consume essence much quicker now, which means more opportunities for ultimate techniques. And most notable is this new dismemberment system where Ryu can slice off the limbs of his enemies and execute them. And yeah, as you can see, with all of these new changes, you're no longer playing a defensive read and react game. Hell nah, you're just straight up mowing through waves Madara style, except it's even more brutal here with all the gore. The enemy count is doubled too, and with the mechanics I mentioned earlier, it has the aftermath of these fights looking like a Hannibal murder scene. And to say it's badass would be an understatement. I fuck with the more cerebral combat of the first game, but this, oh yeah, this is more my speed. Chaotic massacres where you got the freedom to go buck wild. What makes this new approach all the better is that we got some new weapons along with some familiar favorites that are all satisfying to use. You don't just stick with the dragon sword in this. Practically all your melee weapons can wreck house. Even the goddamn scythe, which is this game's big heavy slow weapon. Shit, even the bow got some steroids. You can now supercharge the joint as an ultimate technique to where you just delete people from afar. Way less of a pain in the ass to use in this game too, with this new over-the-shoulder view and a crosshair. You still have to stop and place and pull it out for specific enemies, so still not something I like to use all that much, but way less painful than how it worked in Ninja Gaiden 1. Nah, the true jank bullshit is with the Gatling gun in these underwater segments, staying in place and shooting what feels like an infinite amount of jellyfish. Yes, this is exactly what I want to do as a badass super ninja. At least they took away the breath meter and the swimming controls don't feel like doo-doo. You would think this more cocaine-fueled combat with the player so powerful would result in the challenge being lost and therefore the identity of the series, but nah. This game is still pretty difficult. Enemies are still relentless, they still hit hard, they're even more grabby now, and they come in even bigger numbers to adjust to Ryu's higher power level. Sure, you get through multiple enemies easier, but you also get jumped easier now too. Yeah, this ain't no Dynasty Warriors where all the hordes are smooth brain. Nah, they're still on your ass, and managing all this can get pretty chaotic, especially on the higher difficulties. However, just like the first game, overcoming this challenge through tact is mad fulfilling. This game is still noticeably easier than the first game though, like even without the blue essence drops after each fight, you still recover a generous amount of health. And unlike the first game, you ain't worried about save points here. Feels like there's one around every corner in this bitch. It's like they know how exhausting these back-to-back fights can get. And when I say back-to-back, I mean it. It feels like there's an enemy sprinting at you around every corner you go down. All that downtime solving puzzles in the first game, gone. Interconnected maps with some backtracking, yeah, also gone. Told y'all this was a pure action game. There is so much fucking fighting that in between fights, you have these optional tests of valor where you fight even more waves of guys for a reward at the end. I make this sound like a negative, but it really isn't. The combat here is so good that all the extra fluff the first game offered isn't really needed here. And thankfully, they kept all the quality of life stuff introduced in Sigma. The camera's movable, you can use potions out of the menu, and you can switch to any weapon and Nimpo spell out of the menu too. What about the bosses though? With the combat taken to another level, surely the bosses match that intensity, right?
Nope.
Okay, I'll put it like this. Unlike the first game, most of the bosses don't suck on average. However, None of them are highlights, and there are a select few bosses here and there that are worse than anything you'd find in the first game. On the first point, you can actually lay the smackdown on these guys now. A lot of them are still mad defensive, but they're not so absurdly defensive to where the only real way to beat them is to wait for one specific opening. Made the straight up duel fights like Genshin and the Greater Fiends feel like real epic clashes now. There's an actual back and forth where you're both busting out your coolest moves on each other. Unfortunately, Team Ninja couldn't restrain themselves to more of this. I don't know what the fuck they were thinking with that tunnel worm fight. Not only is it the antithesis to what makes this game fun, how you take it down doesn't even feel right. You got this big ass worm going through this tunnel, right? And if you're in its way, you get dragged through the tunnel. The only way to stop him is to hit him with an ultimate technique, which is hella inconsistent, or pop him with arrows, which is mad boring. Pretty much every fight where you have to rely on the bow is unpleasant. I get trying to diversify these fights, but does it have to be like this? Staying in place shooting arrows isn't exactly why I launched this. Couldn't believe that they opted to have this being the way you fight the final boss in the first phase. And near the end of the game, just when you thought the tunnel worm was the worst this game had to offer, they introduced these assholes. The first one was already some shit. Comes out of nowhere right after another tough boss fight, comes loaded with some crappy hitboxes and some of the most bullshit moves that don't even feel good to dodge. Team Ninja saw all of this and decided, yeah, let's multiply the cancer. It's a total mess. The whole screen is covered in fire effects, the camera doesn't know who to focus on, and if both of these things are close, good luck trying to navigate around their humongous bodies. The first game overall is more punishing, but man, this game has some of the most straight up dickish moments. You could practically hear Itagaki laughing at you with some of these. The armadillo exploding out of nowhere after you defeat him, fake hostile chest after the test of valor, the random field of mines in the goddamn lava after the second Zidonius fight. No other purpose to these than just a straight middle finger to the player. It's annoying, but I do kind of respect it.
Most impressive. That a puny human like you made it this far is worthy of praise. I have prepared a venue befitting a duel to the death. Not here. Come, we will fight on the sacred battleground of the Colosseum.
So yeah, we've long established that this game is kind of insane. Does that same energy carry over to the story? Not really. It's just Ryu hunting these fiends while aura farming. Not too different from the last game, honestly, except it feels even more video gamey here with all of these greater fiends chilling across the world waiting for Ryu to come to them. You can honestly get away with a Mega Man style level select here. All of this crazy shit is still played extremely straight too. Yeah, no gags or quips here. When a fiend is yapping to Ryu about how powerful and evil they are, he's all like,
I don't care.
Then let the fires of hell consume the last descendant of the hated dragon lineage.
It's endearing how seriously the series is still taking itself. Definitely a unique vibe compared to its contemporaries, but considering how ridiculous everything else about this game is, I feel like they could have chilled out a bit. Ryu getting in his feelings towards the end about Genshin dying doesn't really work for me. That asshole's been in our way the whole game and is a major reason for Ryu getting in this mess. And you want us to grieve for him? Not to mention he's partly the reason for the village getting burnt down. Again, second game in a row. What the fuck is this, bro? Where is Ayane? Is Ryu the only strong ninja in this place? Also, second game in a row where Ryu has to rescue a snow bunny that you think will be a competent partner throughout the game. Black leather, built like the letter F. Man, if you were to tell me this was Rachel, I would believe you. Someone on the team clearly has a type. But yeah, there's not really much to say here. Even more so than the last game, the story's just here to serve the action.
massa.
So we got yet another Sigma version that fans debate about, and just like the last one, it's a PlayStation 3 port that remixed the hell out of this game. This isn't as well received as Sigma 1 though, and one of the reasons shows itself as soon as you enter combat. Where's the blood? In fact, what happened to the gore in general? What the fuck is this grapey mess? Yeah, they censored the hell out of the combat here. I'm guessing they did that to both boost the performance and not have this game banned in countries like Germany. I get it, you want the game to be playable to more people, but man, once you go through this is lame as hell in comparison. The ultra violence is one of the things that made the game stand out. As you make your way through these familiar hallways, you'll notice something else. These fights don't feel nearly as chaotic, don't they? And the reason for that is because they've noticeably cut down on the amount of enemies in this game. A lot of areas where you used to get into fights no longer have enemies there. And boy, does it feel weird. They compensated by buffing the health of these smaller group of enemies, and yeah, just like the gore thing, the intensity of these encounters is neutered a bit because of it. Not as many hostiles to keep you on your toes, which makes overcoming these fights not feel as badass. No test of valors too, like what the hell is that about? The change that puzzles me the most though is the restriction of weapon upgrades. In the original, if you had the essence, you can upgrade your weapon at each Muramasa shop at any time up to level 3. Here, they said, nah, you can only upgrade one weapon at a time at specific shops with blue lights, and don't even think about maxing out any of them until chapter 10. And it's just like, bruh, I got the money right here. Upgrade my shit, you old bastard. What is this? Why limit the player in such an arbitrary way? Now a lot of the coolest combos in this game are locked until the end of the game, and you have so much money saved for no reason. There's no point in saving for health potions because the game's already generous with those. Those are already some big knocks for me to just recommend the original, but they did make some changes I like. A lot less flying enemies, which means less using the bow, and even with the bow, you don't even have to aim with it anymore. It just locks on now, which makes it so much less of a pain in the ass to use. Sure, removing the ultimate technique sucked, but I'm fine with the sacrifice if it means less bow combat overall. Those terrible underwater shooting sections have been scrapped. Most of the terrible bosses like the tunnel worm have thankfully been removed, but I'm pretty neutral on these new statue boss fights. They just feel like diet versions of the Colossus of Rhodes fight from God of War 2. As far as some other things I like, I mean, the textures and performance have been cleaned up a bit. This new Emma Fang weapon here is pretty dope, even if it's just a Dabilo repackaged. And we got some new character levels added, which I thought were decent. Ayane gets in on the action, Rachel makes a return, and Momiji gets introduced. I like that they move and play differently than Ryu, but it is a bit weird to just play as a totally different character with an entirely different moveset in the middle of a playthrough. 3 times also. This isn't like Sigma 1 where Rachel had 3 levels for you to get used to her. Not to mention these do feel a bit more like padding. All of these little side adventures barely have anything to do with what Ryu is doing. Like I was joking earlier, we really didn't need to see where Ayane was. But at this point, y'all get the gist. Sigma 2 is clearly the streamlined version of Ninja Gaiden 2. Not inherently a bad thing, but I definitely recommend the original over this if you can get your hands on it. If you can't, then Sigma 2 is a solid substitute. I don't think it's as bad as some purists make it out to be, but yeah, the original is better. Now Ninja Gaiden 2 Black is where things get interesting because unlike Sigma 2, this is a full-fledged remake of the original Ninja Gaiden 2, or at least it claims to be. Yeah, this was false advertising because it's just Sigma 2, but with the graphics enhanced through Unreal Engine 5. They did bring back the blood and no longer restrict your upgrades, but the blueprint they chose to enhance was definitely the Sigma 2 version, so keep that in mind. As far as some praises and critiques, I mean, yeah, this game looks good. All of these 7th gen characters and environments in this new coat of paint is pretty dope. All of the moments in the original that were supposed to look photorealistic, definitely come to life here. However, it does come at the cost of this version looking like many other modern games on the market. Not that the original had that unique of an art style, but it still feels like some of the soul has been drained here. Feels like a test run for the visuals of Ninja Gaiden 4, honestly. However, if that doesn't bother you, and you can't handle old graphics for whatever reason, then you can't go wrong with this version. Might actually recommend it over Sigma 2 since you get most of what that game had to offer, but with fancy new visuals. The original is still recommended over this though. So yeah, that's Ninja Gaiden 2. One of the most unrestrained action games of all time, and one of the best on the 360. It's ruthless, it's unpolished, but goddamn is it a blast. Apparently this was what Ninja Gaiden 1 was supposed to be. I messed with what that game became, but yeah, I'm definitely a bigger fan of this one. And to this day, there's not much else that plays like it. You would think the dismemberment system would be in more games due to how cool and dynamic it is, but maybe this type of thing is harder to implement than I think. Anyway, that's all I gotta say about this. If you like this video, do the usual thing to circulate it in the algorithm, and I'll see y'all next time.